Aloha guys, JRTV here. Tuning in regarding recent Facebook posts at the beginning of this year. You can see February 23rd there. All concerning political issues, the country, the coronavirus, the Black Lives movement, and the presidency, and so on. And this is a funny post from a friend of mine, Kalania Sam. I try to consider both sides of the story. I feel like I've learned some lessons here. One being that some people don't like to hear other sides of the story. They just want to be heard. And I've had comments posted to me, that have indicated that people are upset, they're emotional, and I don't think those people are interested in a discussion upon facts and reason. They're just upset and they want to be heard, or in the event that I don't want to hear them myself, I should just leave them alone instead of try to reason with them, or so that's the response to these emotionally charged the expressions. And the issue of socialism coming up, and just in terms of, is it advantageous for there to be welfare that may in certain ways incentivize, for example, single parenthood? Does it incentivize it, and who is at fault ultimately for, like, who's the primary cause of, for example, problems in any community? And for example, you can group people in different ways, but in this instance, maybe the example of anyone with African American ethnicity, and so the goal being to create solutions whenever possible. And there's a book. It's called The New Jim Crow Laws. It highlights racism and inequality in the system, in the sense that many minorities are, because it's like to do with drug crimes especially. It makes their lives difficult in terms of getting a job or voting and different things after prison. And so but ultimately for me it's a question of, well, what are they doing with involvement in drugs in the first place? And even things like marijuana, to me it's a medicine. It's useful for some people, but it can it can impair your focus and motivation and drive. So different things to consider. Scrolling through here, we see I'm getting into my concerns with the coronavirus. Well, I'm getting into this idea is Joe Biden. I don't like the way he interacts with younger girls, and then my idea of they sell an EMF beanie. I feel like 5G is one of the main causes of lowering people's immune systems. And continuing on, looking at mental programming. If you just look at the way people talk and dress and judge them on that, and not judge them on their skin color, I think that's helpful. It's a good reason to be afraid or intimidated by certain people, and it could be considered a compliment that you're a scary person, and that they come off as that, and maybe they should try to dress more formally and talk more formally and be more friendly. And as we continue on, we see I start to get into label sister instead of mother. I think that's this is a primary reason for what is called misogynistic or behavior, where men subconsciously resent the idea that they're labeling a female as their authority, and in turn take out that anger upon a potential other women, and so if you label them equal, or even if you don't like them, then label them just stranger, whatever it is to be avoided, whatever it is. And then I continue on. I get into this whole Trump thing, where Trump seems to be, at least previously, engaged in perverted activities. And even this guy who they named the airport after, he quite apparently was a sexual deviant. It's a picture of a friend of mine. He's part of the LGBT community, and I like to support people who are outspoken. This is a video of a woman giving birth, and I thought that was a cool little pause in the reality of the delicate nature of life. But then I get into, this is a funny one. It's where she shows all the contradictory COVID, do stay outside but don't stay out, blah blah. I think people should at least try to wear masks and try to take precautions as if it is, but then we gets to a point where what's known as the herd immunity, where once most people are exposed to it, then people are able to go beyond it, and unfortunately some people may suffer and or there will be some fatalities, but we have to move on. We're going to have fatalities and great suffering if we don't interact with each other and in the trade and social trade and doing goods, creating goods and services for each other. Then here's the park just opened. Here's an interesting one. So, hate leading to other things, destruction. So cool. That's me and my sign. But then you get into, I start posting some controversial posts. Ben Shapiro's concerned about, what we're trying to get. And so I've discovered several things. The first one I mentioned earlier is the idea that, when people are emotional in their posts and mean towards you, or, first of all, they should be attacking issues, not individuals. But when they do attack, individuals, just either ignore them, or if you are able, just say, I hear you, and then I'm sorry, even if you're not, just to try to recognize their emotion and try to give them a reason to talk to you. The big issue here is really deciding what the facts are. And what I mean by that is deciding, okay, from a scientific point, okay, well, we agree on these facts. Now, these statistics, now can we decide, okay, what are we going to do with these statistics? How are we going to, what are our opinions on these statistics, and what can be done as a solution? Let's see. So I got a lot of flack for posting some of these videos, why blacks commit more crime. This guy tries to explain what is going on in the black community with black on black crime, and people that people can make choices to get out of it. Continuing on. People, they're name calling me. They're, I instead of offering debate or discussion, you know, sometimes I'll make a point and it'll be ignored because people can't refute it, or say that they were unwilling to admit that I'm right. And some of these people, what I've done is I've went to their Facebook page and tried to post some friendly things on their page, to show that that's a social thing to do. Like, in a way, it's a little antisocial to post mean things on somebody's page. If you're gonna dislike or disagree, at least do it formally and try to invite conversation instead of just attacking people. And then there's this issue of should police hold people at gunpoint if they ask them to stop destroying property? Would they be justified if in shooting if the person's uncooperative? I think any anti-police, just for the sake of it, or Caucasian, just for the sake of it, is not helpful. Even if the police and Caucasians as groups have been racist in the past, it would just be more racism around and against, a new type of racism to throw it around, but it's just more violence. It begets more violence, and so I did this. I assured Facebook I'm not a racist. You can see these videos on my YouTube channel, of course. And then here's a plan to solve police issues, something to do with pension, Supreme Court. That their pensions will be affected for the damages. So it's a complicated thing. And then there's this book, The New Jim Crow Laws, worth checking out, regarding inequality. And this is regarding the prison system. I think it can affect everyone, including people of other colors. Let's see. Perspective, and then just different views. This one says that all lives don't necessarily. Well, what it is it's basically saying that, well, do all lives matter? And I think what you can do is say that yes, Black Lives Matter, and you can say yes, all lives matter. So I think they don't contradict one another, although there is this underlying tone of, well, if you say Black Lives Matter, that means you think they matter more. But I like to assume that that's not the case unless otherwise it's otherwise suggested, it turns up. And there's this interesting thought about is Hawaii less racist because it's more multi-ethnic? I would say maybe so, and I think it's a positive thing as the world becomes just an example of the world becoming more multi-ethnic, and then people can focus more on each other's values and interests as opposed to physical variations. Here's an interesting video. It showed where police were destroying one of their vehicles, and it just craziness on both sides. I kind of have this message: thanks for protecting us, the police, even if people refer to you as a pig. We need the police, even they're bad people in every grouping. Police, whatever ethnicity, it's bad people. So let's give each other reasons not to be racist or power hungry and so on. And then, so, people attacking, name calling me, and, I even cite like Candace Owens and certain people who who and then there's me. I think there's a variety of things to consider, and a lot of people don't want to talk about solutions or facts. They just want to attack, and I've learned to try to just make them be heard, but also have made a restriction that if people are going to be on my page, it's my property, it's my page. I'm responsible for the dialogue that occurs within the confines of my newsfeed, and so I ask people to be more formal and scientific if they're going to take a position and attack issues, not people. And thanks for reviewing, getting a feel for the whole situation, and all in the interest of a more peaceful world. But that takes time, and we but there are simple things that can be easily done. Like, for example, I think eating like a vegan diet that takes a step away from animal pain and suffering, or human suffering of maybe goods or services rendered that involve human slavery, not just animal slavery. And then just dressing well when you can, speaking more formally, not getting angry when people are emotional, but breathing, staying focused, staying scientific, and just thinking of yourself as a professional. Like, I'm a professional, reader or writer or a critic or investigator or scientist or just like researcher, and I'm gonna try to find truths and share information, examine it. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's this, guys. Don't try to learn from people, and don't expect them to learn from you. Don't think that just because you learn from people or you're around them that they should want to reciprocate and both have an exchange of knowledge. Sometimes it's just you gathering knowledge from them and learning from them, even if it's learning from them being rude, and learning not to be rude or mean like they are. So thanks for considering, and friend me on Facebook. Aloha.